So this is a picture of the SIP lounge on Virgin Voyages right before we were supposed to launch. So as you can see, the roof has in fact collapsed. Yeah. This is the picture that Virgin Voyages posted the very same day. This is literally Instagram versus reality. For many of us, a cruise is a once in a lifetime vacation. Don't let social media have you fooled, because while it might look like people are constantly on cruises, a 2024 report showed that actually 1 in 5 people will only go on a cruise once in their lifetime. And when we think about splurging on something like Disney or Virgin Voyages, that stat makes even more sense. So with that in mind, I think it's pretty poor show of the cruise lines to charge a premium for people to sail on a ship that simply isn't ready. And after working on ships for 10 years and launching 2 cruise ships, I can tell you that they're never ready. So in this video, while we are going to be picking holes in maiden voyages and inaugural sailings, I am by no means coming at this from a moral high ground of like, you shouldn't do this, because I have been on my fair share of inaugural sailings and maiden voyages, happily handing over my money to sail on a ship that was just not quite ready. So I am in the same boat. Pun very much intended. I mean, I just did a maiden voyage on Norwegian Aqua back in March of this year. And because of my background of working in the cruise industry for so long and sailing on cruise ships on maiden voyages, I think I have a unique perspective, because oh boy, do I know what it's like to go on a ship that is not finished, but you've paid a premium for it. And I'm angry about it. So without further ado, let's get into this video and really talk about the nitty-gritty of this. Cruises are becoming an increasingly popular vacation, especially with the rising costs of, well, everything, especially in the US, because to take like a 5-day trip to your neighbouring state, once you've factored in food, gas, hotels, you're looking at like $2,000, and that's being frugal. So if you're gonna spend $2,000, you may as well go on a cruise ship. Because when you compare those trips side by side, although they might be the same price, on a cruise you do seem to get a lot more for your money. You get your food, you don't have to cook, you get a beautiful cabin, your entertainment is sorted for you the whole trip, and most likely you're leaving the country. So for exactly the same price, you're getting much more. And cruise lines know this, which is why they are in a race to build bigger and better ships to try and convince you to spend your hard-earned money with them. I mean, in 2024 alone, we had 11 major cruise ship launches. That's nearly 1 a month. Like, that's obscene. And I can't make this video without talking about the launch of Royal Caribbean's Star of the Seas, which is now the biggest ship in the world.
How large exactly is your cruise ship? Star of the Seas is 250,000 gross tons
at a cost of $2 billion.
We carry 10,000 people on board the ship between crew and guests. Wow, that's insane. Can we go for a tour? Horse weekend, let's do it.
And I have no problem with this. These cruise ships are amazing. But what I do have a problem with is launching these cruise ships before they're ready to be launched and slapping a hefty price tag on. So before we dive into the horror stories, I think it's important to understand the process of launching a cruise ship. So it starts with the cruise line commissioning a cruise ship, and then the ship builder is going to give an estimated date of completion, and based on that date, the cruise line are going to start selling cruises, even though the cruise ship is still being built. And usually they start selling these cruises about a year before the ship is actually ready. Then as that date gets closer, there's a series of test cruises that happen before paying guests even get on board. So these typically include a shakedown cruise, then you have a press cruise, and then you have your maiden voyage where paying sailors are on board. So I want to use Virgin Voyages the Scarlet Lady as an example, because that is the first cruise ship that I ever launched. So that ship was built in Genoa, Italy. So we sailed from Genoa to Southampton, where we picked up friends, family, a few journalists, and we started our shakedown cruise from Southampton all the way over to New York. But this later got changed to Miami because of something that happened in 2020. And I managed to get my parents on this cruise, and they paid £50 per person for this 10-day crossing to Miami. And before you get your panties in a twist, trust me, it was a total shit show, so £50 was the appropriate price. But this is the point of a shakedown cruise. It's supposed to be a shit show, because this is where they want to iron out any wrinkles so that by the time paying passengers come on board, it's a little bit smoother. In theory. And then comes the media cruise, which honestly I have never understood, because After a shakedown cruise where everything is chaotic, why do you want the media on straight away? Because you have to turn around and pretend that everything works perfectly when literally yesterday it felt like everything was falling apart. So the media cruise usually lasts between 1 to 3 days, depending on the cruise line, and it's filled with journalists, influencers, sometimes celebrities that are affiliated with the cruise line.
Here are some of the many celebrities and social media stars that are on this mega influencer cruise trip. The Royal Caribbean have invited the biggest influencers onto one of their biggest boats, Star of the Seas. And we have British influencer Katie Lee Bailey, who's been hanging out with none other than Jojo Siwa. Other UK family vloggers include Imogen Horton. Her family are bonding with the Coles. In terms of American influencers, we have the Ong Squad. These are family vloggers with 11 million followers. That's insane. They've been hanging out a lot with High School Musical actress Casey Stroh. Cole, as in the glam bot man, is also on the ship, giving all the influencers their very own glam bot. There are so many influencer couples on that boat. It is unbelievable, and they're all getting content together.
And the goal of the media is simple. They want those people to post about how amazing the ship is and how perfect everything is, regardless of whether the ship is actually ready or not. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of this. So this is a picture of the Sip Lounge on Virgin Voyages right before we were supposed to launch. So as you can see, the roof has in fact collapsed. Yeah. This is the picture that Virgin Voyages posted the very same day. Now obviously, I think it was just a coincidence that they had scheduled a picture of the Sip Lounge to go up the same day that the Sip Lounge collapsed. But you get the gist. This is literally Instagram versus reality. And once the media leaves and is all hyped up, full of canapes, it is time for the paying passengers to come on board. And with that, let's look at some maiden voyages that have gone really wrong. Let's not forget history's most infamous maiden voyage, the Titanic. Yes, the Titanic was on her maiden voyage from Southampton to New York when she hit the iceberg and sank. So, while the maiden voyages I'm going to mention next aren't quite as bad as the Titanic, they're still not great. So firstly, I've got to talk about my most recent experience of a maiden voyage, which was on the Norwegian Aqua.
Well, they were telling people earlier on that the cruise is drastically changing because of weather. So we were meant to do a 7-night cruise to Boston. It's turned into a 9 or 10-night cruise now to New York. And they didn't tell us this until after we dropped off our bags, even though they all knew this morning. Very early this morning, they were telling passengers apparently. So guys, we can't do the cruise, basically because we have a wedding the day before this new cruise ends and we can't miss that. Plus, I don't know if we want to spend 9 days at sea in horrendous weather where it's going to be very bumpy. So it's not going to happen. So I'm really sad, to be honest, but more than that, I'm a little bit more upset with how it's been dealt with. There's nobody to speak to, nobody explaining what's happening. We were given a letter.
So as they said, while everyone, including myself, was in the queue to embark that cruise ship, we all got handed this letter which basically said, this 7-day cruise going to Boston is now a 10-day cruise going to New York. And while this seems fine on the surface, New York's great, 3 extra days of your holiday's great, yeah, but there were people in the queue having to book extra time off work. Then you have to rearrange hotels, transportation, flights, all of this before you get on board the cruise ship, because there's no Wi-Fi once you get on board the cruise ship unless you've paid for the premium package. So this was really, 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 really stressful. And this is just one example that is actually really common about dates of the inaugural cruising changing. So for Norwegian Aqua, it was just extended by 3 days. But for like the Sun Princess that launched in 2024, I was actually booked on that inaugural sailing, but I didn't end up going because it got changed because the ship just wasn't ready. But I am not the only person telling you to stay away from maiden voyages.
Alan asked me, is it worth going on a maiden voyage? There are 4 reasons I never go on a maiden voyage, but there is, however, one big reason that you should consider it. First of all, price. Maiden voyages are often at a hefty premium because they are very much in demand. Second, in recent years, we've seen many cruise lines having to cancel maiden voyages because the ship is just not ready. Thirdly, on the few maiden voyages I actually did go on, I realized that you do hit problems. They've always had workmen on board, or the systems haven't been working completely well because they haven't bedded in. The crew haven't gelled as one effective working team. And often there's issues they discover that need to get fixed. Another key reason is often the ship will be packed full with celebrities and other people that the cruise line have invited. There could be many private events, which means venues are closed and you as a paying passenger don't get access to. The only reason to go on a maiden voyage, in my view, is if you want the bragging rights to have been the very first paying passengers on board.
And going on from what Gary said, I want to talk about the Valiant Lady, because I was working on board when Virgin Voyages launched the Valiant Lady.
We have set sail now, which means that we can open the shops. And you might be thinking like, well, why would you open the shops? You haven't got any passengers or sailors on board. Well, we do have crew still on board. We still have 1,000 crew members on board who also like to buy things from the shop.
And that first sailing, the restaurants were slammed and we were only half full. And I remember, because so many things were going wrong, Virgin Voyages was just giving every passenger loads of onboard credit and loads of free cruises. And because everyone was getting this onboard credit, I remember I worked in the sunglasses shop at the time, and the shop was ransacked because people had all this onboard credit. People were coming in and they were like, I want 10 pairs of sunglasses. I want 5 pairs of Ray-Bans, 3 pairs of Chanel sunglasses. And I could not get these bloody sunglasses fast enough for people. I've never seen anything like it. And I remember at the end of the day on the first cruise,
I mean, my shop was ransacked. I have like no stock left. So tomorrow will be spent making my shop look like there is stock left. But anyway, that is tomorrow's task.
I mean, it was great for like hitting target and making money, but oh my God, was it chaotic. And what Gary said about the
crew haven't gelled as one effective working team
is so right. Like, it definitely takes a few weeks, if I'm honest, months, for the crew to really get into the swing of things. And then you might not have heard, but on Cunard's Queen Anne, the launch of that ship was delayed. It was supposed to come out in January, but didn't end up coming out till May. And also, this is something I didn't actually put in my notes, but I've just remembered. It's the maiden voyage. The crew are stressed. Yes, it's really exciting, but the crew is stressed. This is the first time we've got paying passengers on board. Things must go right. Everyone's boss is on it. So, as a passenger, what does this mean? You're probably not going to get the friendliest version of the crew members because everyone's making sure that they're doing everything right. And the amount of passengers that say crew members make up a massive part of the overall experience. So if you're on I mean, I've definitely noticed it when I've gone cruising on cruise ships where the crew morale isn't great, and you can feel it as a passenger. And it's the same when you go on a maiden voyage. Like, even though the crew are going to be really bubbly and really happy because that's what they've been told to do, because it's the maiden voyage and you're supposed to be excited and happy, underneath that smile, everyone is stressed out of their minds. And you can feel it as a passenger. So it just doesn't have the same feel to it as cruising on a ship that has been sailing for a while, and you can tell that the crew have kind of got into the rhythm of how things work. So those are just a few things that have gone wrong on maiden voyages. And yet, let's look at the prices of these maiden voyages. So here's the thing. Maiden voyages aren't just more expensive than a regular voyage. They're much more expensive than a regular voyage. People are literally paying for the bragging rights. People want to be able to say, I was the first person who sailed on that cruise ship. And on Disney Treasure, a 4-person concierge family stateroom cost $13,020 on the maiden voyage, and then $8,454 the next week. The next week on the same ship. $4,600 just to be able to say you were the first person that sailed. But if you want to be able to brag about saving money on your cruise rather than spending thousands on being able to say you were the first person on board, then I would seriously recommend you booking your cruise with Cruises It. So they're the company that I use to book my own cruises because I love saving money and they always get me the best rate guaranteed. So not only will they make sure you're not overpaying, but they will also guide you towards a cruise that fits your travel goals, fits your vibe, and of course fits your budget. So if you are thinking of booking a cruise, then make sure you click on the link down below, which will take you straight to the Cruises It website, where my trusted travel experts will help you pick the perfect vacation for you. So why are people paying a premium to go on these maiden voyages when most people know there's going to be teething issues? Well, it's one thing and one thing only: loyalty to the brand. Every cruise line has some kind of loyalty scheme, and let me tell you, I have never seen loyalty like cruise ship loyalty. People wear their loyalty status like a badge of honor around the ship, and it's not on one specific cruise line either. I saw this on P&O, Virgin, Cunard, Celebrity, MSC, like Royal Caribbean, oh my god, the loyal to royal. They have a quote. And I get it. If you've made some of your favourite memories on Royal Caribbean ships or Cunard ships, you know, the best vacations ever, the best memories ever, I understand why you're loyal to one company. And therefore, I understand why it's really exciting to be amongst the first people to go on board one of their new ships. There's a buzz, there's an energy, there's a sense of being part of something special, and it really is infectious. I mean, how could I not understand wanting to be a part of that? So if you're okay with a few hiccups in exchange for that kind of energy, go for it. Seriously, I understand it. But here's where I take umbrage. People who book these maiden voyages are usually the cruise line's most loyal customers, the ride or dies, and yet the cruise lines are charging these people a premium for a product that isn't exceptional yet. Not because they don't care, but because these ships need time. The interiors are usually unfinished. Venues are not fully operational. As Gary Bembridge said, there's usually influencers and journalists on board, so some spaces are booked out. So paying passengers get on board and realise that there are areas of the ship that are restricted. With all that being said, if you like the excitement, if you like the drama, if you like going home from your holiday and having a story to tell, go on a maiden voyage, because you will have a story to tell every time. But if you are looking for a vacation that is smooth sailing, again, pun intended, a maiden voyage probably isn't the right way to go. And if I'm being honest, like when I went on the Norwegian Aqua and things started to go wrong, there's a part of me that's like, this is good, because I'm a YouTuber. It makes for a good story, it makes for a good video. But if I went on the Norwegian Aqua and I wasn't going to make a YouTube video about it, would I have been happy about the cruise ship being extended and the port being changed? No, no. So unless you're a YouTuber or an influencer and, you know, it's good to have an interesting storyline, I don't know that a maiden voyage is the right decision for you. Actually, I do know. It's not. It's not the right decision for you. But anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're still here, you are a real one, and I appreciate you more than you know. As I said, if you are looking to book a cruise, make sure you check out Cruises It, because they will get you the best rates guaranteed. And in this economy, we need to save every penny that we can. So definitely check out them, because they are fantastic. And as always, guys, I will see you in the next video. Bye.